20 million dogs are killed every year in China for their meat, their skin, and their fur. China killing 20 million dogs every year is genocide against dogs. Last place a dog wants to be? China, because Chinese are committing genocide. Hello? Red flag. China's committing genocide against dogs every single year. Red flag. This is one of the reasons why the world is mad as hell at China, and we're not taking it anymore. The world has had it up to here with China's appalling animal abuses. Don't visit China until Chinese President Jinping Xi ends China's grotesque dog breeding farms. Boycott vacationing in China until China's anti-democracy dictator Jinping Xi ends China's nauseating dog slaughterhouses. Problem number 1, China's dog and cat meat trade industry, DCMT. China's dog and cat meat trade industry is an abomination. China's annual Yulin dog eating festival kills 10,000 dogs during 2 weeks every June so they can eat the dogs at this so-called food festival. This is why the world is outraged. So Chinese people say, oh, it's our culture. It's our culture. Well, that's a lie. Yulin Dog Eating Festival started in 2009, only 8 years ago, to celebrate the summer solstice. So don't believe their lies. It's not culture, it's torture. To the Chinese people that are participating in China's uncivilized dog and cat meat trade industry, you're a disgrace to the human race. Traditional Chinese medicine says eating dog meat regulates the heat of our bodies. That's a lie. Eating dog meat doesn't regulate the heat of the human body. Duh! Traditional Chinese medicine is folklore. Traditional Chinese medicine is quackery. Eating dog meat definitely doesn't regulate the heat of our bodies. Traditional Chinese medicine is crackpot science. And Chinese people are eating dogs all year long, not just during 2 weeks every June during Yulin's dog killing and eating festival. Chinese are eating dogs 365 days a year. Don't visit China until Chinese anti-freedom ruler Jinping Xi stops the dog and cat meat supply chain. End trading the meat of cats and dogs. What's wrong with you? Don't vacation in China until Chinese anti-Christianity tyrant Jinping Xi bans China's Yulin dog killing and eating festival. No, niet, nein, no traveling to China until the Communist Party of China's General Secretary Jinping Xi cancels China's disgusting dog and cat meat trade industry. Stop it, Jinping Xi. Stop it. Boycott China. Boycott tourism to China until Chinese anti-universal values. Jinping Xi makes dog meat illegal in China, just like the already independent, sovereign, democratic country of Taiwan has done. Problem number 2, the unprincipled Chinese people who are brutally bludgeoning dogs to death so they can turn the dog's skin into leather handbags, leather jackets, leather pants, leather skirts, leather shoes, leather belts, leather gloves. Look at the label of your winter leather gloves. If made in China, you're wearing on your hands the skin of dogs that were killed in the most inhumane way. Throw your gloves away. Please don't wear leather gloves. Don't buy leather gloves this winter. Same goes with golf gloves. You know golf? You know, your Chinese manufactured golf gloves made from dog skin. From a dog that was clubbed to death to make your golf gloves. What'd you tell me last night on the telephone?
I think the public needs to be aware that when they're buying their golf gloves, they're using the softest spot, the softest part of the dog's skin, which is testicular bald. Ooh, damn.
Sack. That's all right. What she's saying is your golf gloves are made from the ball sack of a dog. Throw them away. Please, get a conscience. Stop wearing dog skin. Come on. Ever look at the label of your leather belts to see where they're made? If China, that's dog skin you're wearing around your waist. Dogs beaten to death to make your leather belts. Stop wearing dog skin around your waist. It doesn't take long to look at a label. If it says made in China, put it back down. If the label says made in China, drop it like it's boiling hot. How about your leather shoes? Made in China? If yes, you're wearing dog skin on your feet. Stop wearing leather shoes. Stop buying leather handbags and leather jackets and leather pants. Stop purchasing leather belts. Stop wearing leather gloves. It's immoral, unethical to wear leather. Get a moral compass, please. Stop wearing dog skin. Stop buying leather. Always look at the label and always buy animal cruelty-free clothes. QVC and Home Shopping Network, stop selling leather goods made in China, which come from dogs that were tortured to death. To John Malone, who owns QVC and Home Shopping Network, do the right thing, Mr. Malone. Stop selling unjust leather goods made in China to unwittingly American citizens that have no idea the leather comes from a dog that was killed in the most heinous way. It's unconscionable for QVC and Home Shopping Network to sell leather goods made in China. Stop it, QVC. Stop it, Home Shopping Network. John Malone, shame on you. You need to get a conscience, Mr. Malone. It's wrong for any retailer like Alibaba to sell leather items made from dog skin. Stop it, Alibaba. All online retailers selling leather made in China, like Ivanka Trump. Stop it. Don't visit China until Jinping Xi ends China's cruel dog skin leather industry. Problem number 3. China's repulsive cat and dog fur industry. China's no morals manufacturers using cat and dog fur for fashion. Fur apparel, if made in China, made from cats and dogs that were skinned alive. If you purchase fur products made in China, you're supporting the slaughter of cats and dogs. It's totally reprehensible to wear fur. Get a moral compass. Stop buying fur. Please don't purchase fur or any fur trim. You're wearing animals tortured to death. Get a conscience. Become a better human being. Be against the trade of cat and dog fur. Every country should ban the import of fur that's made in China so fewer animals are killed. Every country. End your fur imports from China. Need a global ban on fur imports that are made in China. And that includes synthetic fur, which really isn't synthetic fur. Chinese are lying. Unscrupulous manufacturers are intentionally mislabeling it. BBC sent Chinese labeled synthetic fur to a lab to be tested. Results came back saying it was cat fur, not synthetic fur like the label says. Don't buy their lies. No, 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 no tourism to China, please, until Jinping Xi implements animal cruelty laws and enforces them. Last time I say it, don't vacation in China until China's anti-internet freedom ruler, Jinping Xi, ends China's cat and dog fur industry.
Hello, my name is Roberto Bonelli. I'm an animal rights activist. I run an organization called the Animals Battalion, and I've been an anti-fur activist for many years. I don't know if you realize that many of the animals that are victims of the fur trade are very similar to the companion animals that you have. Bobcats, lynxes. They're just bigger house cats. Coyotes, foxes. They're just wild dogs. Very similar to the dogs you have. Maybe you have a pet rabbit. Unfortunately, they're not spared either. But do you know what happens to the animals in the fur trade? They're murdered. Viciously. They're gassed, they're trapped, they're beaten. There's numerous ways that they're killed. Sometimes they're caught in traps. Now, what happens in a situation like this is the mother will chew her limb off to get to the cubs. Sometimes the cubs are secondary victims. Now, they themselves may be caught in the trap, or they may be waiting for a mother that never comes home. The animal might be bleeding. It's exposed to the elements. It may not survive its time in the trap. And then finally, when the hunter comes, or the trapper comes, it gets shot or could be beaten to death. Now, countries that have animal welfare standards have fur farms. We have fur farms in the United States. On a fur farm, these animals could either have been trapped from the wild or they could have grown up in captivity. They suffer horrible damages. As you can see here, the limbs are hanging through the opening in the cages. They have injuries. They have a lack of nutrition. They're exposed to the elements. Sometimes cannibalism sets in. And this is all in places that have animal welfare standards. And ask yourself, who exactly regulates this? Here we have a fox. You see this swelling right here? That's severe gum disease. Again, where are the animal welfare standards? Here we have an animal that lost his limb. Like I said, cannibalism. Or it could have been diseased. Or perhaps it was just injured somehow when it was acquired by the trapper. This is life in a fur farm. This is actually within the animal welfare standards. Now, what about the countries that don't have animal welfare standards, like China? Just as bad, worse. Look at this rabbit here. In countries where there's no animal welfare standard, animals are skinned alive. You can see video, you could see undercover footage easily on the internet. This rabbit right here is an Angora rabbit. Fur is being pulled from his body. This is where there's no animal welfare standards. Another method that is used is either vaginal or anal electrocution. We see that here in this case. Yet another way that animals are killed in the fur trade. I want to go back to the trap. I want you to understand what exactly this trap is. This is a spring-loaded trap. The chain is tied to the ground. Once the animal gets caught, aside from the fact that it's severely wounded, you can't get away. I want to set this for you and show you. I use my feet because this is dangerous. Every time I do a fur protest, I invite people, I invite the salesman to give it a shot. They don't. Bear in mind what this will do to an animal. Understand also that in some areas where we have trapping by inhabited areas, sometimes companion animals will go into this. This is what the fur trade is. Now just imagine that was a small limb. Imagine that was a snout. Imagine that's a baby cub. Imagine that's your dog accidentally going into a yard. This is the reality of the fur trade. They'll have you believe that these fur coats are made from roadkill. No. This is one of many devices that are used to kill these animals. If this angers you, if this upsets you, I invite you to get active, to do something. My slogan is, act up, fight back, protect the fauna. This winter season, we're going after a store called the Fur Source of New York. It is a fourth-generation furrier. For 4 generations, this family has made its money in death. So again, I invite you to join us. And I thank Jeremy for having me on the show. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Mr. Taylor. I am the director of Caring Activists Against Fur, which we call CAAF for short. And we started back in February of 2002, so we celebrated this last season our 15-year anniversary. And we target department stores that sell fur, high-end neighborhoods, and a lot of tourist destinations in the city. And we have a sustained presence throughout the Christmas season, both in New York and in New Jersey. More than 1 billion rabbits and 50 million other animals are killed each year for the fur industry, and China is the #1 importer. We educate people about this and, of course, how the animals are killed and their horrible living conditions throughout every year when we're out there. We also hand out flyers that list alternative stores that have fur-free policies that people can shop in. This is an example of them. And it's by no means a comprehensive list. There are many stores that have fur-free policies that people can take their business to. And we passed out 12,000 flyers this last season. By targeting stores that don't sell just fur, but have a fur department, we are able to tell the stores, hey, look, you can end your fur sales and it's not gonna fold your entire business. Think about it. Is it good for business to have graphic posters and graphic videos, as we do many times, and people handing out flyers and chanting into your store? Is that good for business? So even if we can't reach you on a moral and a compassionate level, you know, maybe you should think about that before you're selling fur. And I think CAAF and the other groups that you're learning about today, we've been enormously successful in creating an atmosphere that wearing fur is unacceptable. Currently, we have a billboard. I'm going to show you. It's this Lynx. We have that billboard on the way into the Lincoln Tunnel for this month on the New Jersey side, and over 1 million eyes are going to be seeing that billboard for the month of October to November. And we're permeating a culture. And my colleague Alexis has actually reached out to the different stores that we target about taking these fur-free pledges. And it's hard work because it's hard to get that change. But most recently, she was working with Burlington Coat Factory, and we haven't gotten them yet, but we're going to keep working at it. And she's going to talk to you about the fur-free stores and that list that we talked about. But basically, what I would ask anybody watching the show is, if you're horrified by the images, as you should be, please join up with the anti-fur movement in New York, in New Jersey, and find out what you can do. We always can use people. I'm going to let Alexis tell.
Thank you. And again, thank you, Mr. Taylor, for letting me on your show. You're a great addition to CAAF. We're so grateful. So many stores have definitely taken the fur-free pledge, and that's what our goal is, to get more. Some of those are JCPenney, H&M, American Apparel, The Limited, and some design houses too, which is absolutely incredible. Most recently, you probably heard on the news and social media that Gucci decided to take a fur-free pledge, which is absolutely incredible. Some individual designers that have taken the pledge are Stella McCartney, Ralph Lauren, Hugo Boss, Ann Taylor, and Tommy Hilfiger. So these are great assets to the fur-free movement. So many of our things that what we do is going to be a great future for the animals. Certainly the animals have had a horrible past, and we know that. We know they're dying nightmarish deaths, but with the work that we're doing, we're hoping to get them to have a better future, at least, and that's what we're going to keep doing for these fur-bearing animals. I lead the protest in the chants. I'm lucky enough to get to use my communication skills I get on the megaphone and chant in front of the stores, and the people are shocked by what we have to say because a lot of the public doesn't know what's really going on the fur farms, the horrors that are really happening to these animals. We are kept quiet as a public. We are kept in silence, and this has to stop because the education is key in what's going to get the animals to have a better future. My story is a little bit different than others. I was actually wearing fur up till about 5 years ago. I was given a rabbit fur by an ex-boyfriend, and I wore it. I had heard things about what happens to these animals. I had heard terms like live skinning, anal electrocution, and my rationale as a young woman wearing that was that it couldn't be true because laws would be there to protect animals. That couldn't be true. They wouldn't let them be live skinned. And I kept telling myself that, and the doubt kind of kept creeping in. And finally, one night by myself, I looked online and I typed in live skinning, hoping to see something to prove the opposite of it. And I was taken courtesy of PETA to see the video that we show at the CAAR protests, the raccoon dog being live skinned. And ripped apart while it is fully conscious. This sent me in a tailspin, and I hear from many of my other activists that they too suffered a breakdown of sorts. After about 4 or 5 days, when I started feeling better, I realized that I was going to have to join groups and educate the public who, like me, were also wearing fur strictly out of the ignorance of it. And I'm convinced, as an activist and as an American and as a woman, that if we teach the public what really happens on these fur farms, no one would be wearing the fur ever again, and I'm sure of it. Thank you.
And now we're about to show you an example of some of the chanting that we do in front of the stores.
Thank you. Stop the insanity!
No blood for vanity!
Stop the insanity!
No blood for vanity!
Stop the insanity!
No blood for vanity!
Fur trade!
Death trade!
Fur trade!
Death trade!
Fur trade!
Death trade!
Fur trade!
Death trade!
Hey, Macy's, what do you say? How'd you get your fur today?
Gassing, trapping, anal electrocution!
Hey, Macy's, what do you say? How'd you get your fur today?
Gassing, trapping, anal electrocution!
Macy's, New York, what do you say? How'd you get your fur today?
Gassing, trapping, anal electrocution!
The fur on your back!
Blood on your hands!
The fur on your hat!
Is blood on your hands!
The fur in your store!
Is blood on your hands!
The fur on your rack!
Is blood on your
The
hands!
fur on your back!
Is blood on your hands!
Compassion is the fashion!
Don't buy fur!
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 And you can join us. If you love animals, you can chant along with us and help them have their rights. Thank you.
All right, how you doing, guys? My name is Leonardo, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit today about the New York animal rights activism scene. First of all, I really hope to see many of you out there in the future. Things that you should be willing to respond to should you come out there with us on the streets are detractors, those who are trying to take you off your game. Why don't you have a job? Isn't there something else you could be doing? Why aren't you fighting against the bombing in Syria? Don't you care about children? Those are all detractors. And the reason being is because people who saying them often are afraid of looking at the inner turmoil taking place within themselves, that which they would have to turn around should they try to buy into what we're talking about, which is actually fighting against oppression against all. There is no way that oppression over one is going to overtop the other, overstep the other. It's one and the same. If you're against oppression in one hand, you must be against it in the other. One thing that we had faced a lot this past winter in one of our campaigns against Canada Goose, which is not unique to any other form of activism, are employees for said corporations responding to you with buzzwords. What are buzzwords? Nothing more than thin air. There's no substance behind them, so in particular in going against the Canada Goose Corporation in addressing the sourcing of their fur and the down that are used within their classic parka coats, the employees were all too quick to throw out those buzzwords, ethically sourced, sustainable. But what do those mean? I don't know. They mean ethically sourced and sustainable. Yeah, but what do they really mean? Oh, it means that they're sustained, and they're sourced ethically. Shows you, therefore, they don't really know what they're talking about. The bottom line reason being that they're being lied to as well. there is absolutely zero transparency on the behalf of any corporation that is ever going to exploit animals. The reason being, it would be pretty bad for business. The age-old expression, if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everybody would be a vegetarian. Makes a lot of sense. Really quick plug for that. Anybody watching this, you should definitely watch the documentary coming out of Israel's animal liberation movement called Glass Walls that will be out very soon. I come to you today on behalf of a brand new collective in New York known as the New York Animal Defenders. Highly recommend that you look us up on Google, definitely on Facebook. We are a grassroots collective in New York City. One of the things that I love about us there is that we have no actual leader. The reason being is that it's not our movement to be leading in the first place. This is not our struggle. It's not our fight, but we are going to do our damnedest to make sure our voices are heard. So you might have seen some of the small success stories that we came across in New York City over the past few months. Most notably, perhaps, there was an art exhibit that was due to open at the Guggenheim Museum that was led by two artists that were from China that were featuring either live animals or video recordings of live animals attacking one another, eating one another, or trying to attack one another, all apparently to bring light to the oppression that they had felt at the hands of their government. But if you're using one form of oppression to exploit another, to bring about the exploitation of others, it's not really helping out, not helping your cause out, and in doing so, you are the oppressor. So one thing that was excellent about that is through videos that had come out of what that exhibit was going to feature, a social media campaign got huge win moving forward, and a number of activists, some of which who are behind me today, were able to come together in less than 2 days' time, protest outside of there, really beef up the social media campaign, and that exhibit was shut down in about 3 days. Another one really quickly that came out of undercover video footage by the Humane Society was at a local pet store known as the Chelsea Kennel Club. So again, individuals that I'm happy to have standing with behind me here today really helped to share the footage that was presented in that undercover investigation by the Humane Society about inhumane treatment of the dogs that were being sold there, many of which were sick, had really highly infectious diseases. They were being hit by the employees there. And all we did was bring that message to light, was bring it to the people. And that's a big part of what animal rights activism is all about. Because if you're not aware of what's going on, you're choosing not to be aware. We are living in the age of technology. Everything is available to you. And so what we're doing, New York Animal Defenders, along as many other groups in New York City, helping to bring those to the forefront. And if you'd like to join us really quickly, coming up soon, really quick plug, on Saturday, November 4th, we'll be joining up at the Flatiron Building in New York City at about 1 o'clock to march collectively against the fur industry. I'm going to just leave it with this right now. For the longest time, and I'm not alone in this, you've heard this line forever, I waited around forever for somebody to do something until I realized I am somebody. Take that to heart. May your actions always be a proper reflection of your morals, and speak up for what you believe in. Thank you.